Hi, friends. It's Nicole here for I'm not a doctor, but I do think that I have some helpful information. So, again, this is based on my life experience, what I do. It may or may not work for you, but I find that oftentimes our doctors may guide us or suggest things, but not give us enough details to actually successfully heal ourselves or find ourselves functioning correctly. And so you can end up in a loop. And as somebody who suffers from chronic diseases, chronic issues, I I hate to waste money on unnecessary doctor visits or unnecessary supplements or prescriptions or uh just things that I think are gonna help, and then you end up basically flushing them away. So, as I was filling all of my pill containers for the week, so it is late Monday night, and that is when I tend to restock for my week. I have several different pill containers that I use, and we're going to talk about the timeliness of when to take supplements and medications. Obviously, I cannot tell you how much to take or if your things jive or not. It's just to bring awareness to the fact that in order to get proper absorption, you have to time things out correctly. And to get the most bang for your buck in regards to supplements, you also are going to want to separate some things so that they're not just clouding each other. And as I'm looking down, I'm like, oh my goodness. So I have this double sided AM and PM. I have these two separate. And then I just have random stuff separate that I have to do too. And it is a full-time job to remember all of these things until you get into a routine. Even getting into a routine, sometimes it can be tough if you've got something that's just loose off to the side that you're supposed to take with lunch and it's not in a pill container. A lot of people have issues with remembering to take pills at certain times, so they set alarms or ways to remind themselves to take their medications. Now, I am the opposite. I am on it, extremely thorough, and want to make sure that things are working their best for me and to not like waste any money or time or effort. Um, I take thyroid medication every morning. I have hypothyroidism. I do have Hashimoto's disease, which actually stems from the fact that I had Graves' disease initially and had my thyroid treated with radioactive iodine. So shrunk down to like the size of a pea. So I basically have had hormone replacement since I was in my mid 20s. And the tricky thing about thyroid medications is that they can be influenced or their um, ability to be absorbed can really fluctuate based on what else you're putting in your system. So, if you are also on a thyroid medication, make sure that you're taking it first thing in the morning and on an empty stomach, and you're waiting an hour to truly eat or drink anything else. Now, I'm not a coffee drinker. Caffeine is it's too much for my system. It makes me all wired and jittery. And so I don't have the issue of like waking up and wanting to have a cup of coffee. If you are an avid coffee drinker, then I would say take your medication, maybe brush your teeth, shower, do whatever you can for at least a half an hour, and then you can have your coffee. But you want to give it that time to truly absorb into your system without competing with anything else. Um, I have found that levothyroxine has made me sensitive to the sun and I will break out in hives from like a sun rash initially. So I'm in Michigan, so I don't see the sun very often. When my skin actually does see the sun, upon that first spring glow, I can actually get a rash. And so if I go on vacation and I'm gonna be in the sun all the time, I actually switch my medication. So I would take the levothyroxine at night before I go to bed to give it more time to get into my system and not be so potent and fresh first thing in the morning. And then that way, my reactivity to the sun is lessened. Sometimes I will even skip a dose when I'm traveling the day of travel. I don't obviously recommend. That is not a doctor's orders by any means. However, that is something that has worked for me so that when I show up in Mexico, I'm not just itchy and blotchy and miserable. So, if you switch to taking your medication at night to kind of let it absorb overnight, then you also have to adjust when you're taking your other medications and such. Um, Even if you are switching to right before bedtime, you'll want to make sure you haven't ate about an hour before that. So, if you're a late night snacker, you still want to give your stomach that empty stomach feel before taking your thyroid medication. So that is what this is. This is my first thing in the morning, my thyroid medication. And I am on MP thyroid and a little bit of levothyroxine. I actually need both to get everything that I need. MP thyroid is a more natural hormone replacement, but the nice thing is that it has T4 and T3 in it. So it gives me that little boost of T3 that I need because my hormones aren't converting at maximum capacity. So we will do a different episode on simply just thyroid and thyroid medications. In the meantime, I'm going to move on. So if you do any B vitamins, you want to take those in the morning because they give you energy. You don't necessarily want to be taking a B12 or a B6 or something like that in the evening and potentially creating an insomnia effect or getting a burst of energy when you should be winding down. Now, if you take iron, then you want to do that with a meal and usually in the evenings, but you have to space it out from everything else. And especially with magnesium. And a lot of people who need iron also need magnesium, but you can't take them together because they won't absorb well that way. And I have a sensitive stomach, so I take iron biglycinate. You can also find it by calling it gentle iron or easy iron. And I have found that that iron works fine for me without upsetting my stomach. And even though I pair my iron with other vitamins in the evenings, I will start my meal with the iron and then I will end my meal with the rest of my evening dinner time supplements to try to give enough duration of time and some food barrier between the iron and the other stuff so they don't wipe each other out. Now, if you have a hiatal hernia or acid reflux or anything that's basically causing that throat burning sensation and you take like an omeprazole or some sort of acid reducer, which is crazy because most times people have acid reflux, they have low acid. But anyway, that's another episode. In order for those types of medications to be effective, you have to take them a half an hour before you eat. So I put my iron, my other dinner supplements, and my omeprazole all together in my PM container on this side. And when I know I'm going to sit down to eat or I'm starting to prepare dinner, I take my omeprazole. So I just grab all my supplements out of that little container, put them next to where I'm going to eat, and grab the omeprazole, take that, and then heat up my food or make my food or whatever the case may be to try to give that some time to start working. If you take omeprazole while you're eating, it most likely isn't doing anything for you. So, you know, you have to kind of get in a habit of, am I going out to dinner? Maybe you take it right before you leave the house. Um, Especially if you're drinking. I get acid reflux from wine, cocktails, but I love to have them. So if I'm gonna meet friends at a bar, then I keep a omeprazole in my purse. So if I think about it and I've already left the house, I can take it on the way or take it right when I arrive at the restaurant. So that's just some fun facts for trying to mitigate it. But even then, I forget a lot of times. Um, if you do take magnesium, now a lot of people take magnesium glycinate because it helps them sleep. So they tell them to take it at night. I take magnesium citrate so that it can help me go to the bathroom in the morning. So I take magnesium more for constipation than I do for sleeping. There's also magnesium combinations, blends that have multiple kinds. And this one actually says that you should consume it with food, but I have not had any kind of issue with taking magnesium without food. And I actually take 4 of these pills at night. It says like take 1 to 4 capsules daily. And so I take 4. I am pretty magnesium deficient. And the reason I do it at night, even though it's not the glycinate form for sleeping, it's for pooping, is to keep it away from my iron, to give it enough time in between. And the other thing that is nice about taking it at night and not like wiping everything out is you can take a probiotic at night with magnesium. So, like, I have this Metagenics Ultra Flora Balance probiotic, which is kind of a pricey one. Um, but there's no issue with combining it with the magnesium. And then that way I'm getting gut health stuff at night when my body is doing the work of digesting food. And that way, hopefully, I can wake up in the morning not feeling bloated and gassy and crappy. Now, if you're taking anything else to help with digestion, like I take this beta food. Sometimes I take AF beta food, and AF beta food is more for gallbladder health to help create that bile. This is um, for digestive and intestinal health to help break down the foods because I'm gluten free and dairy free. So I'm missing enzymes that help break down food. So sometimes I feel as though I need a digestive aid if I'm going to eat anything that's going to have stuff in it that could potentially upset my stomach. And so this you can pair with meals pretty easily. I don't think that it really interferes with too much, to be honest. I don't know that 100%, but standard process, this brand is usually okay in regards to pairings. Um, and obviously, most of them are with food, but that's because they're trying to help you with breaking down the food. Um, so then I also take a thyroid support complex. So we were talking about thyroid easy earlier, and this one has the iodine, zinc, selenium, and L-tyrosine. Well, it has a few other things in it, but the main 4 are iodine, zinc, selenium, and L-tyrosine. So at the very minimum, the top 3, iodine, zinc, and selenium, you want to be able to take them together. Now, I used to take each of them individually. I would order the iodine as kelp, actually, and then the zinc and selenium, like all 3 separately, which is also fine. I find it more convenient to take it together, and then if you're taking them together, then you know you're getting the right dosages for them to work well together. Because if you're taking them individually, then you're kind of having to piecemeal the dosages and to make sure that they're all working the way that they should. And this has vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, ashwagandha. I think these are some mushrooms, turmeric. Anyway, so this thyroid support complex is helpful in creating hormone naturally and kind of boosting what your levothyroxine or whatever medications you're on is doing. I've noticed that it just really makes me feel more like me. I mean, sometimes having to take thyroid medicine, you got a puffy face, you can feel brain foggy, and you are just not in it. You're just not feeling like yourself. And so this thyroid support complex from Pure Encapsulations helps me do that. But this one will actually make me nauseous if I try to take it in the morning with my other supplements. I really try to not take things during the day if I don't have to because it's hard to remember. So this one I keep here and I keep at work so I don't have to remember to lug it back and forth. And so sometimes I even just keep it on the kitchen counter right in front of my face. So as I'm making my lunch or prepping my lunch for the next day, I remember to either put it with my lunch or take it as I'm doing it. So that one, like, it's not a big deal, I guess, if it gets missed. It's not like, oh my God, I missed it. But I do need to take it with food, otherwise it does make me a little nauseous. So I try to figure out ways to keep it going, but I'm not as regimented. Um, and then I also, for gut health, take fiber. This is sun fiber. It's a powder. You mix it in with water, and you should really probably do fiber every day as well. This is 6 grams of fiber. Especially if you're constipated, they tell you to take more fiber. Now, that's another one where I don't remember every day, but if you do every other day, you're probably doing all right. I will, when I'm working from home, mix it in the water and drink it like midway through the day. So like in between lunch and dinner is when I try to do it. It's best if it's probably in between meals, but I mean, who honestly can do that, right? That's really hard to try to keep track of. So a lot of times I'll also drink it because it's a small amount of water, and so I'll drink it right before dinner. So take my omeprazole with it, and so that also helps you feel full so you don't eat as much. So yeah. So sometimes I take my omeprazole with my fiber, and then by the time dinner rolls around a half an hour later, I should be good to go as far as, things being protected and moving. There's another supplement that I take that I don't have sitting here, but, it's colloidal silver. It's in a dropper form. It's for immune health. It has made a major difference for me, um, um, just not getting the regular common colds through this winter. And again, I don't necessarily always take it every day, but it is one that can seriously interfere with your thyroid medication. So if I do it, I will brush my teeth at night and then do it after. So you're supposed to hold it under your tongue for 30 seconds and then swallow. Now, it probably would make more sense to do it at a different time, where you haven't just brushed your teeth so that you don't have that, like, minty flavor that you're swallowing. But, because I am staggering all of these medications, it just is, like, what works best and what's most convenient and what's going to be the least interference with everything else. Um, Now I do have preferences. I've shared a few: Pure Encapsulations, Metagenics, Standard Process, Thorn, um, Solgar, Country Life. Those are all brands that I have found to be really effective. I did use Swanson for a long time. I feel like some of theirs are effective and some of them maybe not as much. Uh, Anything that is like a tablet from them, it's like this, like kind of raw tablet. It's probably gonna be more helpful, but I mean, I did have good success with their Femflora probiotic, which was in a little capsule. My issue is that their capsules are, I think, silicone for some of them, and my body just doesn't really love it. And I figured that out through muscle testing with my chiropractor, which again, another episode I could talk about muscle testing. But Swanson is the most cost effective. So if you are not super sensitive like me and you need to take a bunch of magnesium like I do, they have a triple blend magnesium that, I mean, it actually works really well. And you can get this giant bottle for much cheaper than the other brands that I mentioned. It's just that those other brands, I've had good results and I trust them. This Sun Fiber is Blue Bonnet. And so another gut thing is I'm using balanced oil of oregano with black seed oil. And so when you pair the black seed oil and oil of oregano together, it's supposed to be the 1-2 punch that's needed to help heal your digestive tract and like your lining. It's good for people with SIBO, leaky gut, etc. I have not noticed as much of a positive. I mean, there's not necessarily been anything negative, but I guess it has just not been as much of a noticeable change with this oil of oregano. Um, Not that it's bad, but like I will take one of those at dinner after I'm done eating. And then I will take one sometimes at night with my magnesium. I have found that ADP has an emulsified oil of oregano that works much better as far as if you've run into a series of a couple of days where your stomach's just not feeling right, you can't seem to get it to um go back to regularity, then emulsified oil of oregano from ADP is probably the better choice than that one, but um, oil of oregano can work wonders when you are not feeling well, if you're sick, um, if you've got a virus, and on top of that, if you've got tummy troubles. So I ran through obviously a bunch of brands and medications that I'm on and supplements. I can link some of them in the description box so that you have them for easy access. I also have a bunch of these guys that I use, and I've just kind of picked them up along the way. You have to figure out what system works for you. I basically have 4 different pill containers: the super AM, another AM, a PM, and then a late night, and then my lunch in betweens when I can remember to do them. And then anything else that I take, that is for allergies like Allegra, Zyrtec, whatever, I tend to just pair those with my either morning or evening supplements and don't see any kind of issue with absorption or their lack of working. They seem to be fine when paired. Now Zyrtec I think can make some people sleepy, so they always say to take it at night. I haven't had that, or maybe I've just been taking it too long, that it's like candy to me. But for everybody else, you just want to make sure you read all the labels. And honestly, the labels on a lot of the brands that I mentioned will tell you with or without food, will tell you maybe better in the morning, will tell you how many per day. One thing that I think that's helpful is if you're new to a supplement, um, taking it at its lowest dose and gradually working your way up. And then also, I've been using AI, ChatGPT, whatever choice AI you want to use, to put together a schedule for me. So I'll list out all of my supplements and I will say, tell me when is the best times and with or without food, and have it give me a schedule. If that schedule doesn't work or is too hard to manage, I just tell it, like, "I can't commit to that. We need to make it easier. We need to bundle these more." And it has been amazing in regards to suggesting new supplements based on my sensitivities and health issues because it brings in 3 or 4 different comparisons for you to choose from, uh, based on what it can find on the internet and your personal knowledge and what will pair best with what you already have. Um, and it's been great in regards to helping me keep track of if I'm not feeling well or something feels off and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. I can write into ChatGPT like, I don't know, something's weird. It'll remember, hey, you started this new supplement 2 weeks ago or 2 days ago or whatever the case is. And that could be a side effect of it. Um, it will also help with that gradual flow, that gradual increase in telling you to start out with one or start out with two. Um, I personally have found it to be extremely helpful also with having it like all put into one place for me to easily then spit out a Word doc that I can take to my doctor's office and say, here's everything I'm on. Because it's the worst. If you go to a new doctor, they're going to ask you what medications, and you're not going to be able to remember, and you're not going to take them with you, but you also probably don't want to spend the time to write it all out. So granted, you would have to put your supplements and medications all into there initially. But then it kind of keeps a running track for you. So then anytime that you have an update, it can update it. Or if you have any questions about it, or if you're wondering, you know, should I be mixing my probiotic and magnesium together at night? I mean, give it a whirl is all I gotta say. Honestly, you can't treat it like it knows what's perfect for you because it doesn't. I'm not a doctor, it's not a doctor, but it arms you with information enough that you could even then just message your doctor in the portal instead of having to wait for an appointment. Um, it gives you enough knowledge and power, which is what I'm trying to do as well, to then advocate for yourself and make sure that you are on track with your needs and not wasting time and money because a lot of times when you start taking a new medication or supplement, you have to wait a while to get tested again, sometimes 6, 8 weeks, something like that. And you don't know in between. And then that 8 weeks comes along and it's still not where it needs to be. Is it not where it needs to be because you're not getting enough? Because you're not absorbing it? Because you're taking it with something you shouldn't be? Like, it's just there's a lot of questions and the doctors don't necessarily have time to be the detectives to work through all of this with you. So you have to kinda be your own detective and figure out how to best, um, educate and schedule yourself to make yourself feel the best. So, that was actually a lot more than I thought I was going to share, and a lot more than I realized, yeah, I even had knowledge on. There's quite a few other supplements that I take that I didn't even mention. And so we will continue to have this conversation. But as I talk about all of my various chronic issues and diseases, medications and supplements is almost always a part of it, as well as how I have those conversations with my healthcare practitioners. And for example, for my thyroid, I um, adjusted the medication based on my doctor's recommendation, waited the 6 weeks, and then my numbers were not where I wanted them to be, and I input those labs, those test results into ChatGPT to try to figure out what would be a couple of recommended options to get my numbers where I want them to be. I send a message to my doctor in the portal with uploads of my test results, the recommendations, my symptoms, and I did all of that within the word or character limit. And she was able to then call in a new dosage level for me to the pharmacy without me having to actually schedule an appointment. So that is how you're going to be able to like work the system. It's a lot of effort and upfront work on the patient, but it definitely ends up saving you the stress of trying to get somewhere in the middle of the day when you're supposed to be at work. It saves you from dilly dallying around with the conversation of what if then this, what if then that. It also saves you from the doctor saying, this is your one and only option when there's usually multiple options. So just remember that there are resources out there to help you get to where you want to be and to do it in the most efficient and cost effective ways. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And hopefully, this helped you at least one little nugget of information. Make sure you're not mixing your iron and magnesium together. All right. Have a good one.